It's good to be back with everyone. Yes, happy new month. Happy new month. Yes, I don't want to miss celebrating the June celebrants. Yes, so if you are a celebrant in June, this is wishing you the very best. Or if you're celebrating, because I know most times when we hear celebrants, most times people will be thinking about birthdays and anniversaries, wedding anniversaries. But a lot of times we probably don't remember milestones in some of the things that we've achieved so far in life, right? And so it's a good time for us to say congratulations to everyone who is doing something, marking something this month. At the end of the month, we would have come to the middle of the year. Wow, just like that. Just like that. But congratulations to everyone who is celebrating. And like I said, I would try to do every time we come to the beginning of a new month, I would introduce myself, because I feel a few people could have joined us in between the weeks that we've had sessions and might not really know much about what we do. So let me start first with Thriving Thursday. So on Thriving Thursday, what we do is that we share a tip that can help you to thrive, and that's why we call it Thriving Thursday. It could be me, it could be a member of faculty, and it could be a guest sharing their story. But what I always emphasize when we have guests sharing their stories is that if you listen carefully, you will find out that there's a tip that will be there and very helpful and relevant and simple enough for you to apply in your space as well to be able to thrive. All right. Now, for those who are also meeting me for the first time, my name is Bukola Ogunfayo, but I always tell everyone, just call me Folafayo. It's simple to remember, I believe, and it's also easy for you to find me online with Folafayo, my website, the work we're doing on the Polished Lens, the YouTube channel. I mean, you can find every resource we've put out there easily using Folafayo. Apart from that, you don't have to put a title in front of Folafayo. So it's just fine for you to call me that. And I am the perception shaper. What do I do? Those times when people need to move from one season of their life to another, or to move from one level in life to another. Yes, I'm that kind of person who loves to work with people like that. And my intent is to make sure that that transition to the new season and to the next level is one that is done with ease. And I use the Thriving Code. So if you're hearing about a Thriving Code for the first time, you need to go get your copy. And that's available on the polishedlens.com. It's an audio version, but it's basically going to take you through 4 simple pillars that can help you to, transition smoothly and move to the next level or season that you're anticipating or expecting for yourself. All right. So today we're going to be talking about ideas. When I was putting my notes together today, I remember something that someone that I used to listen to a lot in the past, I'm not quite sure who it is, so I don't want to misquote, used to say this a lot, that ideas rule the world. I was like, ideas rule the world. Now, if ideas rule the world, then it's important for us to make sure that we are making good use of it, or making the best of it. So I want to start here today. And the question that we're going to start with, because what I try to do whenever we start our sessions is to say, I would ask questions as we go along, but the questions might be such that you could immediately give us your answers in the chat. And there could be some that you want to probably take time to listen to yourself, as you think over it, as you reflect, and then note down and probably make adjustments on your end. All right. So the first question I'll be asking today is this. What kind of ideas have come to you of late? Now, let me make that question a little bit broader to say, what kind of ideas have you observed around you of late? An idea that you can tell has become reality. So you're like, you saw something, an innovation somewhere, and you're like, who would have thought about that? I mean, I wouldn't have thought that somebody would create something like this. So if you've come across something new of late that has piqued your interest, please drop for us in the chat box. And let me use the opportunity to say hello to everyone who is joining me on Instagram. Thank you for joining me. Fortified Together, Saladville, Lizzo, Debs, I believe I said welcome earlier. And True Blood, I see you as well on Facebook. And for anyone who is also on Facebook, please, you need to drop me an emoji or a line or a thumbs up for me to know that you are there. And if you're watching the replay, please give us #replay so that we can know that you didn't get to watch the live session, but at least you got time to be able to watch. So what ideas have you observed of recent, innovations have come to mind? Okay, so while you think about it, I will share with you 3 areas of life that I have observed some new things that have happened in the last, they might not have happened necessarily in the last 5 years, but I have observed them in the last 3 to 5 years. So some other people might be more updated than I am. So maybe they just, observed them or noticed them way before I did, but I just observed them recently. So let's start with the beauty industry. Let's start with the beauty industry. So for the beauty industry, I know that one thing that became a new thing for we ladies who do makeup, especially in Nigeria, it has become an in thing, right? For people to do their faces properly for events, their birthdays, photo shoots, and all that. I was kind of intrigued when I realized that there was this innovation of magnetic lashes. So if you've seen magnetic lashes before, please just give me a high five or a thumbs up. That's one thing that I would say when I saw that online. The first time I saw the ad, I had to send it to my sister to say, I think we should get something like this because, I've seen faces that are well made up and I'm always like, these faces look really nice and pretty, especially when the lashes are well done and, well fixed and everything. And to know that you don't have to ask a makeup artist to do it for you. You can do it on your own at home, just using magnetic styles or formats to have it clipped onto your lashes. That was very, very interesting for me to observe, right? So that's one thing that I know that is an idea that piqued my interest of late. Even still in the beauty industry is gel nails. I'm not sure how many people have seen gel nails around, but it's something that is, becoming a thing now. I know that in the past, you probably would have heard of extensions or acrylic nails and all of that. So with that one, you basically have a form and then you're using the glue to put it onto the nails. But with gel nails, if you're someone who's done something around architecture or construction before, you would know how cement or concrete mix works, right? It's like you have the cement or concrete mix, you put it into a form. And then when it solidifies, it becomes that shape. That's exactly how gel nails work. So it's like a substance in a gluey form, and then you put it on the nails, and then it takes the shape that you want it to take as you paint it out on paper. And it's an interesting innovation. Let me just put it that way. So that's an idea that I've observed of late. And that's kind of piqued my interest. So that's in the beauty industry, right? But then when you now start going to the investment space, we all have heard of cryptocurrency of late, right? We've heard of NFTs and all of that. And people are probably wondering, I grew up, with the regular stocks and bonds, landed property, running a business, working at a job to make money, maybe going into things like agriculture. And so the whole space of cryptocurrency is something that people are just like gradually getting to understand and, key into. Some people have probably said they would never do anything around that because it's a new idea, right? Okay. Now, when you think about the tech space, a lot is happening in the tech space. But the only thing I could note down today that I know that everybody will agree with me is a new thing is metaverse. Metaverse, I can tell you, I've heard about it, but I've not taken time to look into it per se. Not because I don't think it's useful or relevant, but because I have a lot of things on my hands at the moment. So if you've heard anything or learned anything around the metaverse, please, we'll be glad to host you on a Thriving Stories session where you can share with us some of the things you've learned and how we can key into it for good, right? I'll probably even make money from it as well. All right, so that's one of the things that I would say I have observed. Those are some of the things that I would say I've observed in with innovation and ideas that I've seen around me. And if there's something that has come in your space of late that has piqued your interest, please share with us and let us look into it and probably give a mention of it. All right. Now, but when I was thinking about those things that I mentioned earlier and how ideas actually work, I realized that there are like two ways ideas function or innovations function. They function to meet a need that never existed before or to modify something that existed before. So usually when you're having an idea come to you, it could be something that was never there. So I was having a conversation recently and I was, what the idea, the analogy that came or the example that came to my mind was, how years back we probably used to use our hands to eat, and our forefathers would have realized that at some point they cannot put the hot food straight into their mouth, so it's either they wait for the food to cool or they sort out how the food can get into their mouth hot. And that was when cutlery was invented, right? So at that time, there was nothing like cutlery. We had just our hands used to eat. So at that point, cutlery became like, meeting a need, a fresh need. It was never there before. However, when you look at modifications and you think about things like the airplane, the first airplane that was made is not something that many of us would probably want to go into today. If you probably see it in a museum, you're like, I can't go into this thing, because you would have flown more recent updated planes and more comfortable, ones as well. And so that's the way to look at ideas, to say an idea that comes to us is to meet a need, to solve a problem in a way that we'll say that thing never existed before, or basically it might be modifying something in our space in a way that we're saying that, okay, I like the way it was, but I feel like we can definitely enjoy it in a better way as well, right? So that's which I observe that, ideas work. And you start asking yourself, what kind of ideas are coming to you? Because one of the things that I'm hoping we'll be able to go away with today is saying that when an idea comes to you, you can immediately say, oh, I can tell that this idea is for something new, or this idea is for a modification. All right. Now, today we're going to be looking into some things around ideas that can help us to make the most of it, because I want us to start becoming more intentional about the ideas that come to us. I know that, like I said at the beginning, ideas rule the world, right? And if you look at everything that exists around you, it came from an idea form, right? Or a thought form before it materialized. And so when those things come to you, do they eventually materialize? And one of the reasons why I thought that this would be a good conversation for today is that in the course of the week, I've had two conversations in two different sessions, right, that made me mention the term line upon line, referring to ideas and suggestions and creativity. And then it dawned on me that, oh, wow, this is something we've probably never talked about on a Thriving Thursday. It may be good for us to look into it. So the first thing I want us to note about ideas today is that they come as raw and they come in levels. Ideas come as raw, in a raw format, and they come in levels. So whenever you think about the raw state that ideas come in, you want to be thinking about something, say, in the area of crude oil, as an example. When we get crude oil in our side of the world, in Nigeria, and that side that has, our side that has access to the sea and the ocean, and we can drill oil and all of that, crude oil, we get it in the raw form, but we don't use it in that form. We have to do something to it. Ideas, when they come to us, they come in the raw form. And I think as much as we start holding on to this understanding that ideas come in that form, maybe the way we actually approach ideas will start changing, because in your mind, just know that, well, it's still raw. It's not yet in the state that it can be used, all right? So ideas come as raw. It's not something that you can maybe immediately use as they come to you. Now, there might be some simple ideas that, like, it's easy for you to do. So maybe you're at home and you're like, oh, let me make a smoothie, and you've never made a smoothie before. You just saw that you had some fruits at home and you're like, I don't want to eat these fruits raw. You've probably never seen it on TV before or in an ad, because some things come to us in ads and we don't remember that we saw them in an ad. So you probably haven't seen it before, and then it just dawns on you that I could mix those fruits together, blend them, and then have a smoothie, right? So that's an idea that just came to you, can immediately implement. But some of the ideas that would come, they come in raw form. There are things that need to be worked on, processed, before we can actually see the materialization of it. Now, the other thing about ideas is that they come in levels. And the way I want us to see levels is to, let me put it in a simple way. If you look at the academic space, right? When you start school as a toddler or as a young child, you start in elementary, and then you go to the middle school or secondary school, and then you go to high school, and then you go to college. I mean, it's in phases, right? Ideas are like that as well. Ideas come in simple forms when they come to you. Maybe you will even call them low-level forms. Now, depending on how you've worked on them in the past, it will also determine the kind of ideas that you start having. So let me put it this way. So let's say you're someone who is in the health or fitness space. Maybe you're a health coach or a fitness coach or expert and all of that. The ideas that come to you will probably be college level ideas. However, if you're someone who hasn't actually taken time to grow yourself in the finance space, and you still have a lot of people, reminding you on things like note down your expenses, have a budget, look out for things to invest in, you're probably getting elementary ideas on wealth. So ideas come in levels. Now, for you to be able to advance in the idea getting stage is how you process the ideas that come to you. And we're going to talk a bit about that today, just before we're done, all right? So you want to ask yourself, what level are you on when it comes to ideas? When I was thinking this through earlier on today, I realized that a few years ago, when I was formalizing my work around coaching, training, and personal development generally, the kind of things, ideas that used to come to me would be things like, oh, who could I reach out to? What kind of resource could I put together? What kind of program could I put together? That was the level of thinking I had because I was new in the space. So when you are new in a space, or where you are not groomed in a space enough, because you can be new and groomed as well because you are informed. So when you're new or not groomed in a space, you have elementary level ideas. So that's the kind of ideas that used to come to me then. But I realized that today, when I was having a session with a coach, the kind of conversation I was talking about, referring to the things I was talking about, I was saying things about scaling the business, the work that I'm doing now. I'm thinking about what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years, living legacy kind of things. And I'm thinking, oh, how do I scale up? How do I make myself look similar to a regular startup that is into, apps and things like that? That's the level of thinking I'm having. And, when I reflected over the conversation after the session, I told myself, you're not thinking regular level ideas now. You're thinking advanced because you've spent a number of years, you've processed ideas. The ideas that have come to you, they've become line upon line, precept upon precept. So if I want to explain that, rounding it off on that point is to say, for you to be able to enjoy the best of ideas, you need to remember that it's line upon line. The Bible says line upon line, precept upon precept, thought upon thought. Now, the Bible didn't say thought upon thought. I'm adding that to it to say thought upon thought, idea upon idea. Now, as you get an idea, as you process it, as you step into it, it will start to level up. It will start to become more advanced in your mind and in your reality. That is the way ideas work. So the question that I also want you to add to the list of questions for today is, what level of ideas are you processing in the different areas of your life, especially in the area of your life where you want to be known for, or you want to specialize in, or you feel is your priority at the moment? What kind of ideas are you brooding over to be able to get to the place that you want to get to? Okay. Now, another thing I want us to note about ideas today, which will be like the second point. So the first point is that ideas come as a raw form, in a raw format, and they come in levels. But then the other thing I want us to note today, which will be the second point around ideas, is that ideas are easy to discard. They are easy to discard. When those thoughts of doing something new, creating something new come to us, it's easy to discard. And two major things make that happen. One is that when ideas come to us, a lot of times we are busy focusing on other things. We are busy focusing on other things. You won't find a lot of us who actually make time out to say, this is my idea moment. I'm going to be thinking about ideas. Usually it's when you are doing something. So you are going in a public transport home from work, and an idea comes to you, but in your mind you're thinking, I can't wait to get home to sleep. So your mind is busy. What is priority for you is something else, so you discard the idea. So because you are not in that state of mind to be able to appreciate or take in that suggestion that has come to you, you discard it. Now, another thing that could also make us discard an idea easily is when we feel like it seems too big. So you're going home, you could be driving your car, and then all of a sudden you just realize that the traffic is so bad. In your mind, you're like, why can't there just be cars that fly? And all of a sudden you discard it because your mind, you're like, what? Cars that fly? Well, I don't think, you're like, oh, that's just too big. And there are probably people who are thinking about it because you don't even want to think through the process of what it would take to even, create, design, produce, and then sell, a flying car. So being busy and assuming that an idea is too big are the reasons why we discard ideas easily. So if there was something like a recycle bin of the ideas that come through the mind of men in the world, I can tell you that recycle bin will probably be as big as this earth. planet Earth. Because the kind of ideas that many of us have discarded, I mean, they're quite a number. So I'm sure if you think about it, in the past few weeks, you would have discarded an idea that will have come to you. So if you agree that you've discarded an idea, please give me a high five. give me a high five if you know in the last 1 or 2 weeks you have actually discarded an idea. All right. So that's the thing about ideas. So I said earlier that ideas, come in raw form, which brings us to the third point. Ideas need to be refined. For us to make the most of ideas, they need to be refined. And so there are 2 states. So I will start with 2 states that we need to consider to make sure that our ideas come into to be able to make the most of it. All right. The first state is that your idea now needs to be clear. Your idea needs to be clear. You need to clarify that idea. When you think about ideas being clear, this example comes to mind quickly. It's one example one of my mentors uses a lot. It's like when someone comes to you and says, you know what, things are not easy right now. We're just managing, we just thank God. And the person says, is there anything you want to do? And the response is, I would like to make more money. Or in fact, right now, if somebody gives me more money, I'll be so happy. And then you put your hand into your pocket and you bring out 100 naira note or a $1 bill and you give the person and you're like, okay, here, this is more money. And the person said, that's not the kind of more money I'm talking about. Well, you were not clear on the kind of more money you wanted, because when an idea comes to you, or when a thought comes to you of a change, because, ideas, like I said earlier, are solving, problems, meeting a need, creating a change, right? So the change you want in your life, you have an idea about it, but it's not clear. If it's not clear, you are not impressing properly and you're not going to get the kind of results you want to have. Now, let me quote one of our favorite books in the polished lens space that we use for the last mastermind we run in the year, The Science of Getting Rich. So Wallace D. Wattle says this: you must form a clear and definite mental picture of what you want. You cannot transmit an idea unless you have it for yourself. Let me repeat that again. You must form a clear and definite mental picture of what you want. You cannot transmit an idea unless you have it for yourself, unless you've created it for yourself. So another example that comes to mind that I also share a lot in some of our mastermind groups is, if I came to this live session and I was saying A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, after all, they are letters, right? And I expect that you would pick those letters, form words, form sentences, form paragraphs, and make sense of what I'm saying. I'm sure many of us will probably live with different ideas of what it is that I'm presenting today. Your ideas need words that have been put into sentences, put into paragraphs in such a way that anybody and everybody who reads it will be able to tell that this is exactly what you're thinking about. The truth is this: most of us have ideas, but they're not clear. Most of us have thoughts of things we want to change in our lives. Now, I'm not even talking about the solution you want to create so that you can become a well-known person or wield the Nobel Prize. I'm even just talking about the things that we want to change in our lives. We have ideas about things we want to change in our lives. In fact, we have ideas about the kind of person we want to marry, but we're not clear about it. You're like, I just might want to marry a good girl, as long as she's good. Or I want to marry a guy that is good. That's it. I want to marry a guy that is God-fearing. What is God-fearing? There are many representations of God-fearing. God-fearing could mean for some people that he can pray. God-fearing could mean that he just fears God. But then you can fear God and not go to church. As in, there are a lot of things that are there are a lot of things that define what a vague word is. Or you say, oh, I want to be an influential person. Influential, you can be influential in a bad way. You can be influential in a good way. But are you clear? So you need to start thinking about how clear those ideas are. So it could be an idea that comes to you, or an idea that you are putting together for what you want to do, that you want to do with people, but you need to make it clear. The other thing about ideas, when you're trying to put them in the right state, is that ideas need to be constantly in your mind, because it is in that place of being constantly thought over that you will eventually have it rooted. Now, an idea is like a seed. When it comes to you, it's as if, you know how it is when the Bible talks about the parable of the sower, when, the seeds are sown and then there are some that just fall on the hard ground and they don't take roots. An idea that has not been worked on properly worked on is like a seed that just falls on a hard ground. You need to have the work done on your ideas such that it begins to take roots. If your ideas don't take roots, I can tell you the first challenge that comes, the idea is gone. And you know, I said earlier that ideas are easily discarded. It's at that point that the idea will be discarded. So you need to ask yourself, this idea that I'm thinking about for something I want to create for myself or for my business or for a relationship that I'm in, is it clear? Is it rooted? Is it clear? Is it rooted? All right. Now, for us to be able to get to the point where we are saying that it is rooted, what do we do? What are the things we can do? 2 simple words to remember. So today seems to be a day of 2s. Like before when I say 3 or 5 or something like that. So 2 ways to make an idea rooted for you is for you to be able to contemplate that idea. Contemplate that idea means that you think about it, you take another time later to think in between your work time, your leisure time. It's not only when we pray that you should brood over an idea, because that's what happens to most of us. When we have something we're trying to change in our lives, we just come to especially for those of us that are people of faith, we pray about it and that's it. In between prayer time and the next time we pray, we are not even thinking about it. We're not asking questions. We're not looking up, materials around that thing. We've prayed about it and that's it. We don't even do anything around it. Ideas don't work that way. It has to be contemplated. It's like, you know how it is when you're cooking some meals and you need to like turn them over. You know how it is when you're trying to make something like fried rice, especially. You have so many ingredients and you need to turn it over. That's the way ideas work. You need to contemplate ideas. You need to contemplate ideas, think it over, brood over it. You will find out that for those of us that have had opportunity to speak, maybe at work or to speak to a group of friends or something, you'll find out that thing you were asked to talk about, the time you took to brood over it, right? By the time you delivered it, it was different from something that they just woke you up that day and they said, talk about it. Of course, you can pray and say, God, help me to talk about this thing so that it will make sense to the people who are listening. But you can't compare the delivery to something you have contemplated on. Ideas. When you have contemplated on an idea, the ability for you to materialize it or enjoy the reality of it is heightened because you have added flesh. When you contemplate on an idea, you are adding depth and flesh to it. Now, the other thing about how to process or to make an idea rooted, so apart from contemplating, is articulating it. Because many times we think we have an idea about something, right? But we've not given it we're not giving it that opportunity to say it is expressed in the way that another person on the outside of you can understand. So you're thinking of, maybe you want to make a different meal. If you're someone who has a restaurant, you want to bring in a different meal into the menu and all of that. And you're like, okay, I want to do it this way. But in your head, you think you're doing it that way. But you know what? Sometimes until you start to write certain things down, if you're a writer, if you're a text person, I always tell people to do all these things you need to do in life from your area of strength. If you are someone who loves to write, who likes words, you like all those poetic things and words, that you want to try to express that idea in word format. And it is at the point when you are writing it down that you start to articulate what it is that you've been thinking. Now, for those of us that are more into verbal opportunities, we would rather talk. And then how do you know if you're a talker? Well, if you're chatting with a friend and in your mind, you're like, please, can you talk? Please, I want to call you right now. You don't mind spending your call access, on that friend to make that call. You are probably a talker like I am. I would prefer to talk than to be chatting and writing things, right? But you need to also have that form of expression to say, you know what, I have an idea. And I think that if I look at the way I have grown in my space, it's probably because I have people like my husband who will listen to me for hours talking about ideas, because he comes back from work sometimes and I'm like, I have an idea. I have an idea for you and all of that. And I also have someone on my team who I'm always telling things whenever we have meetings that I'm thinking about this, but that opportunity to articulate verbally or by text roots your idea. It roots your idea, So another thing I want us to look at is in the kind of conversation. So sometimes you could be talking to yourself. That is why, what do you call it? Confessions are also encouraged because it helps you to root an idea, right? So you could have confessions, right? You could actually have an individual who you talk to. I have my family members, my kids, they always hear all my ideas. My husband his ears are full of my ideas. But then you might also be someone who could leverage much on a group setting. And that's one of the reasons why we use the mastermind group model in the polished lens space, because the power of a mastermind is incredible. Now, how do you articulate in that space? Because what happens is that you come into the mastermind with an idea, right? And then you've not actually said a lot about it. You just hinted it in the conversation. But because someone else has picked what you've said, when they have the floor in the conversation or in that session, they add flesh to it from a perspective you could never have thought about. So it's like saying that you have a team coming together to build something. It's like an engineering team. And then one person brings in one part, another person brings in another part. By the time you're done with that idea, it is looking incredible and you are so charged to go and run with it. That is the power of a mastermind group. And that's the reason why we do mastermind groups in the polished lens space. And we even have one coming up soon and I'm excited about it. We actually have our one-on-one starting within the next few days. And if you're someone who is considering the next level and you have ideas about your next level, you've not clarified it, you've not rooted it, and you don't even know how you want to articulate or express it, this is probably one that you should look out for, the Thrive Mastermind Group. And if you want more details, just send me a DM if you're on Instagram, Thrive. And if you're on Facebook, we're going to be dropping the link. You need to really be part of this. Now, you may say, oh, Falafayo, thank you for the reminder. I'll join the next cohort. Actually, we have it just once a year. So if you're not joining this cohort, that means you're waiting for exactly this time next year for us to be able to work together to help you move to that next level, using this concept around how to make ideas maximize and how you want to make the best of whatever comes to you, right? So you want to articulate with individuals, with yourself, or with a group, and that's the way to do it. But I would want us to leave on this last two notes on ideas. When an idea starts to take form, you've taken time to contemplate, you've taken time to articulate, you've taken time to refine it, you will start seeing the next steps. Now, what I've observed in conversations with people, especially when I have sessions, is that many times we trivialize the next steps that come to us because they don't look so big. We are like, it's not going to probably have as much impact. No matter how small that next step on that idea is, you need to take it. Because what you're doing when you take steps with your ideas is that you're reinforcing it. You reinforce an idea with the steps that you take. Except you're saying, of course, that idea is not for you. Because I have one of my mentors say that a lot, that he thought that some of the ideas he was getting as time went on in his life were for him. But when he got into the coaching space and mentoring space, he found out that those ideas were not actually for him. They were just things that he had accumulated in a notebook, and they were becoming things that he could refer to, and they were relevant in the sessions he was having. But if the idea is for you and the steps that you are considering on that idea are looking simple, please take them, because that's the way to reinforce the idea. All right. And the last but not the least on ideas, on how to make the most of your idea, is to guard and nurture. To guard and nurture. When you have a baby yet unborn in a woman, if you see when people surround such pregnant women, they are petting them, giving them favors in public transport. Well, when you see a gentleman, you'll probably stand up for her to sit down. You don't go opening up, the womb of a woman to say, hey, how is the baby feeling today? The baby that is yet unborn. You don't do that. When you have your idea yet to materialize, you need to guard it. You need to protect it. And then you need to nurture it. And one of the ways to guard your ideas is to watch out for things that are distractions to that idea, or things that are contrary to the idea. So you're someone who wants to lose weight and be fit. If you want to guard the idea, you need to stay away from anything that is fattening or that will make you laze around in the house and not be active. If you're someone who wants to create wealth and you're looking at making the most of opportunities to invest and to lock in your skills on a level that you will make much more, you should not be having conversations around the cost of things going up. That's distracting to your idea. I learned that in a hard way as well. I didn't know that those kind of things were distractions. I didn't know those kind of things could actually uproot your idea or give your idea that you're trying to root difficulty in even being rooted. So are you guarding and nurturing your idea. Because you could have an incredible idea there. You may be something you're working with, but if you're not putting it in a space where the right words are spoken, the right actions are taken to encourage it, you could actually lose out on the idea. So if you're someone today who has joined me today, and you've heard a little bit about it, like, Falafa, you don't want to know. I have discarded ideas. I don't even know what it is to be clear on my ideas. I don't even know what it is to root my ideas and not making the best of the ideas that have come to me. It's like, I'm just going through life, the regular motion, just do the things I need to do for the day, and that's it. Then I'll be happy to have a session with you. Don't worry, the session is free. So if you need to have a session on this, just send me a DM ideas and let's book a session together. And if you're someone who's saying, no, I need to be part of the mastermind group, then please, you need to go to thepolishedlens.com. And if you need the direct link, just send me a word, Thrive, if you're on Instagram, and on Facebook, we're going to be dropping the link. I look forward to working with you. I was, thinking about the session for today, and I was telling myself, I'm probably not going to spend more than 15 minutes having this conversation. But the more I contemplated, the more I brooded over the session, the thing I was going to be delivering, I was like, we may actually have the regular time tonight. So thank you, everyone, for joining me. Centerfees, I hope I pronounced your name properly. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, this is insightful. Saladville, this is what you needed to hear. I'm happy to see that. Yehezil, Bumi, I see you. Dami, I see you. Thank you for joining on Instagram and Fortify Together, and on Facebook as well. I can't see everyone who has joined me. For everyone who's going to be watching the replay, thank you as well. And as you continue in the month of June, right? Those ideas, note them down. Those ideas, give them flesh. Those ideas, give them expression and make the most of it. And then for the ones that might not be yours, just keep them in a reservoir. You never know. There could be a connection that would actually need that idea. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of the month and stay blessed. Bye-bye.